So what we want to do here is this is one of the quick checks for adding fractions with unlike denominators. Let's go ahead and get started. It says number one of the shapes shown, 1/3 are circles and 1/12 are rectangles. What fraction, let me go ahead and underline the question as I move along. What fraction is either going to be the circles or rectangles? And since we want to put them together, right, we want to add 1/3 plus 1/12. You can't add these fractions because they have different denominators or unlike denominators. So how do we find that? Well, we find something called the least common denominator. It's also known as the least common multiple. And hopefully you remember what a multiple is, right? It's when you multiply two factors together, you get a product, or we also call that product a multiple. So we're going to write all the multiples of 3 and all the multiples of 12 until we find a common multiple. Okay, so 3 times 1 gives me 3. 12 times 1 gives me 12. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 12 times 2 gives me 24. And then so far we haven't found a common multiple. You know, the 12 is a multiple, the 24 is a multiple, the 3 is a multiple, the 6 is a multiple. We're going to keep looking at all of our products, or also known as multiples, until we find one that they have in common. That is the smallest, all right? So far we haven't. So I'm going to keep going on the 3's. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9. Have we found a common multiple? Nope. 3, 6, 9, 12, and 24 are not the same. So we're going to continue with the 3's. 3 times 4 is 12. Now we found a common multiple, right? So what we're going to do is, since what we're saying now, we're saying, you know what, 12 is a multiple product that both the denominators 3 and 12 have in common, and I can use that to find what we call an equivalent fraction. I'll draw that for you at the end. Okay, so let me go ahead and move on. I am going to now, and this is how I'm going to do it. All right, let me go ahead and make sure that I get this a little bit. Let's see, where is it? I erased everything. Hopefully you will be able to go back, obviously. So I was adding 1/3 plus 1/12, and I found a common multiple, which was 12. That 12 is the one that I'm going to be using to find what we call an equivalent fraction for 1/3 and 1/12. Okay, so remember at the beginning that when we were talking about equivalent fractions, that the only way you could find equivalent fractions was by multiplying the numerator, the number at the top, and the denominator, the number at the bottom, by the same number. So in this case, what we're going to ask ourselves is, what can I do to this 3 to get that 12? And we can only either multiply or divide. And in this case, the answer is simple. All you have to do is multiply 3 times 4 to get 12, right? To get that. So what you do to your denominator, you will do to your numerator. All right? So here we go again. I keep erasing everything. 1/3 plus 1/12. The least common multiple or denominator is 12. We found that through finding our multiples of 3's and 12. We said that 3 times 4 gives me 12, so I'm going to multiply my numerator, which is 1, by 4 also. And what's 1 times 4? 4. So we're saying that 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. See that? Now, if I were to draw that, it would look like this. Check this out. Let me draw them down here. Here's the first one, and I'm going to break this one into 3 parts. And I want 1 out of those 3. That's 1/3. Now I'm going to draw the same size congruent circle right next to it, and this time I'm going to break it up into 12 parts. Check this out. That's 3 parts, and now each part I'm going to break it up into 4, because 4 times 3 gives me 12. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2. Oops, 1, 2. That didn't come out that good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I want, the fraction says, I want 4 out of 12. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Isn't that area that is shaded same amount or equal to the same area shaded. So what we just did when we find our least common multiple is that we found equivalent fractions. Well, why do we have to do that, Mr. Calzada? Well, the reason why you have to do that is because there is no way in the world that you can add 1/3 to 1/12 without trying to find the same area using a common denominator or multiple. It's a lot easier to add fractions with common denominators, 12 and 12, than it is to add 3 and 12. Because look at the model. The size of the pieces is different, you see? So it would be a lot easier if we could find a way where we could make those pieces equal to each other. You see that? And that's exactly what I'm doing here, is that I'm saying that 1/3 is exactly the same thing as 4/12. Okay, now, so let's look at the other fraction, 1/12, and we're trying to find an equivalent fraction. Obviously, as you guessed it, since the denominator of 12 did not change here and here, the numerator is going to stay the same, which is 1. Or you're going to go through the math and say, okay, what do I do to the 12 to get 12? Well, I multiply 12 times 1, and that gives me 12. So whatever I do to my denominator, I got to do to my numerator. 1 times 1, 1. See? Okay. Now, the easiest thing to do is just to simply say, you know what? My denominator stayed the same. So therefore, my numerator is going to stay the same. All right. So now that we found equivalent fractions, what can we do with those two? Well, the problem wanted us to add the fractions. Now you can, because 12, you have the same denominator, 12 and 12. All right. Only add the numerators, only add the numbers at the top. 4 plus 1 is 5. And 12 plus 12 equals, I'm sorry, you don't add 12 plus 12, my bad. You just keep the same denominator, 12. Now you have to be careful though, because you may think you're done. What you want to do is you want to ask yourself, okay, do I have to simplify my fractions? My fraction, 5/12. And the answer is no, because when we talked about identifying prime and composite numbers, well, we saw that 5 is a prime number and 12 is even. 12 is not a multiple or a product of 5, so we know that we don't simplify that at all. So that would be our answer, 5/12. Okay, so all right, I hope that helped. I'm not going to go through all of the problems because there are still some students that have not finished the assignment. And this one will not count for them because I did it already. But hopefully this helps. Please make sure you watch this video before you attempt to do today's test over adding and subtracting fractions. Have a great day, guys.